All right, welcome back. Episode 80 of the Young Old Heads podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tommy, aka TV Sports Cards, and I'm here with my good friend and co host, Max, aka Cards Max, aka Cards Max Stadium Club is Overrated Edition. Max, how are you doing?
I'm feeling questionable about that opinion that you just threw about the Stadium Club being overrated. Perhaps it's the most properly rated, then overrated, then underrated product in the land. And we have a great show tonight.
We have an amazing show tonight, Max. You're underselling it. We have a big announcement to make. I know we teased it on our socials this week. We didn't do an episode last week. Me and Max have been talking for a while about making some moves, making some changes with the podcast. We are very excited to announce that this is the last ever episode of Young Old Heads in its current rendition. Don't worry if you subscribe, it's going to stay all the same. We're going to keep doing the pod. We're going to keep doing a podcast that is very similar to Young Old Heads, just with some slightly different branding. Max, how do you feel about this being the last Young Old Heads episode of all time?
All I can say is that this is the last Young Old Heads episode of all time. And I think people will understand why in a few weeks. I don't want to reveal too much, nor do I want to gas it up more than it should. But there's some marketing and transformative brands that we want to become. That was very word jargoned. And that phrase, word jargoned itself, is word jargoned. But in terms of aspiring into what we want to be as a podcast and make ourselves known for, I think Young Old Heads is overly broad and also in specific. Like, I understand me and Tommy are very young, good looking guys with the intellect of, very, very old men. But I think we can make the title, as well as some other aspects, more cardboard and collectibles focused.
That is very well put, Max. You texted me about a month ago, kind of being like, "Hey, what do you think What do you think our podcast is all about?" And I'm like, "Well, we tell our listeners about what's going on in the industry and the card release world of what are the hot topics that everyone's talking about on Twitter and Instagram. We do all of that through the lens of our experiences in the hobby. So Max is out here dealing on a day to day basis, traveling around the country at his shows. I'm collecting and have previous experiences in the industry and have do my own thing in the world and kind of guide the conversation. We bring on guests that are aligned with our views. We have the Young Old Heads name really stuck us with kind of getting these younger guests that were reflective of cool things that were going on in the industry, doing cool shit. I think by no spoilers, broadening the title to, or not broadening the title, but focusing more on cards specifically can open us up to a little bit more growth in that, and make it more self-explanatory. I feel like is the main thing. Like we don't have to. I don't want Max to have to explain what Young Old Heads means to everyone he meets at a card show that's interested in the podcast. I want us to be able to say the name of the podcast, have people get that it's about cards, get kind of the gist of what we're about. And I think that the new name that we have, which we're not going to reveal right now, is going to be very cool and fun. And our logo. We just spoke with our graphic design guru Charles, who has been a guest of the podcast before, but about kind of some things we got in the works with him in terms of changing the logo a little bit. Obviously, the 55 Bowman Topps Chrome collab logo is too iconic to move away from totally. So we'll be keeping a very similar logo, but moving forward with some other things that I think can be additive on the merch side and make people a little bit more proud to be listeners of the podcast and wear it with their chest, figuratively and literally. Max, man, it's been a fun time though. I mean, Young Old Heads. What do you remember the most? What do you remember like our initial conversations about Young Old Heads being like, Max?
That I will do a podcast as long as you do the production.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Max is
And I
first thing.
totally expected you to drop the ball in that regard, but you didn't.
Yeah, I remember it was back in the day of 2021 when everyone and their mom or 2022. early 2022 is when we started. So it was when everyone and their mom had his podcast about cards, and everyone was wanting to be a content creator. Me and Max have stuck with it through over 80 episodes, including a lot of our live episodes. So, this is something that we care a lot about. We want to really grow the podcast, especially, with some of the other content creators kind of deciding to move on to different projects. I think, the podcast world is something that me and Max want to own for sports cards, and we have high ambitions. We want to be the podcast that everyone goes to that's interested in sports cards. We want to have content that's engaging for people that buy and sell and collect sports cards every day, and also for people who are a little bit more interested in just getting into it and hearing about what the world's about. Young Old Heads as a name was very much meant to be a broad title that could lead us down different paths of collecting and
Placeholder.
different things where young people were in older spheres of things collecting, maybe I think we kind of talked about people collecting, more non-sports cards, collectibles like, I don't know, theoretically like Hot Wheels or, other sorts of weird random collectibles like stamps or coins and stuff like that. That was kind of in our scope at the beginning. And I think as we've done this podcast, Max, not to speak for both of us here, but I feel like we've really realized that it's worth doubling, quadrupling, quintupling down on sports cards as our niche, as our focus. And I'm excited about what's to come. You haven't what else is up, Max? You got what did I miss here in terms of our kind of moratorium? Our what's the term for something that dies? Our obituary for young old heads.
It was a good starting off point, but we ain't finished yet, baby.
We ain't finished yet. And speaking of which, Max, you are not finished with traveling around the country collecting and dealing sports cards. What have you been up to in the last 2 weeks since we spoke last?
So the last 2 weeks, I believe we already recapped that I was at Culture Collision, and that was fun. Tommy, correct me if I'm wrong. Did I? I think I did.
I don't think so. Wait,
No, I totally did. I talked about how I was set up with a buddy and that I was given the perspective of sitting behind the table instead of just doing my walking up and buying than usual.
did we also talk about Cards HQ?
Did we?
I don't know if we did. Well, tell us about what happened last weekend, and I'll double check us on this.
I went to the Culture Collision trade show 2 weekends ago in Atlanta. Liked that it was a Southeast regional show rather than a whole national show with a lot of Southeast Central dealers, that normally wouldn't be traveling absolutely everywhere. And I thought that was one of the show's perks. The venue was great. It's in a nice small convention room that directly connects to the hotel, and it is nonstop trading and buying and selling cards as soon as you leave the convention center. It's in this nice circular room. What's up, Tommy?
We recorded the last episode before you went to Atlanta. It was about Dallas. We talked personally about Culture Collision, but not on record because for the people back home, last week, me and Max were about to start recording an episode and then ended up just really deciding that we wanted to go with the name change, that we wanted to just kind of focus a little bit of energy on the planning on that. So we spent the hour that we usually spend recording every week talking about Max's Culture Collision experience and the brand change ups that we wanted. So that's why there wasn't really an episode last week. Max, let's go a little deeper on the Culture Collision experience.
So I was just rudely inter fucking upted by someone, but I was set up as a dealer with a buddy of mine, Pretty Boy Gothic Cards, I think PBG Cards on Instagram. But point being, um, what was the show like?
I don't know. Did you play 3-on-3 basketball? I'm still pissed you weren't invited to the influencer basketball game.
No, stop it. Everyone there is a friend, so there is no being pissed. But the show itself was, I want to say, lots. If you had a card that, or my interpretation of the climate of the show was that if you had a card that was kind of cool and under $300, it was bought up, and there were not many cheap cards left or remaining in the room. A lot of people wanted to hold on to their higher end cards more than usual, That was just kind of my perspective. Obviously, everything is moving. Bowman's hot. Everyone wants Brock Purdy and Mahomes, but also by the same token, it was a very active show. I wish I could be more descriptive than that. Um, I had a fun experience with a Derek Jeter 1993 Topps autograph where I played full price or free, and I won the coin flip and won the card for free. Otherwise, I could have been paying not just full price, but double the price of the card. So that was a fun anecdote.
I'm interested, Max, in this idea that like cool cards under $300 were very liquid, a term that you don't like me to use, but they were very, easily sold. Why do you think that's the case? Do you think that I have a theory, but I'm interested more in what your theory is.
Yeah, there's just a lot of buyers in the room that are just paying very strong, and they have buyers that know what to do with those cards. But I want to say if you have cards to sell, shows or even selling to vendors or even selling at trade nights, I feel like it's more proactive that cards will get moved in that bracket more than usual. But at the same time, um, you're higher. There's no, FUD or uncertainty or doubt or mania about higher end. Prism is still as hot as it can possibly be right now. Cooled off a little bit, but still overall very hot. And we're in the fun midsection where we're almost essentially in football off season. I get that it's a Super Bowl, but it's the off season for 30 other teams. Basketball midseason is essentially the off season, as much as that hurts. And baseball is not had pitchers and catchers report yet.
Yeah.
So spring training is when it will all probably kick off. Maybe. I don't know. And it's just a cycle of cards.
It's a cycle of cards. We've spoken about it now for well over a year. So if you want to hear the whole cycle, you got to just listen to all the episodes to hear what's going on. But now that makes sense. I mean, is Culture Collision still kind of trying to do this thing where it's like not it's more than sports cards, where it's more than like it has comic book people set up and shoe people set up? Is that still something that they're going for? Or is it just going all cards?
There were other collectibles in the room, but I frankly didn't pay much mind to it, both because I wasn't walking the show as much as I usually did, and because it was only a smaller portion, but still existent part of the show.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Before we move on to this last weekend, what you were up to, Max. I am interested. We did have a co-founder of Cards HQ on the podcast, and there was a trade night at Cards HQ that I heard about. Um, give us your first impressions of the space.
It's very big, and it's very much what Carter was hyping it up to be. Um, Carter, the former guest, it has the breaking area. It has all the cards on the wall that are relatively priced. They were priced pretty fairly, I will say. My one gripe was that I had to pay sales tax when buying a card from the wall, so I ultimately did not buy it because of that. Um, but I don't know if that's just because that was something that they were doing. I'm granted all businesses have to pay sales tax, but I'm not sure if that's just something that they were doing because they weren't taking cash on before it officially opened.
Yeah.
But that being said, Card Shop is great. They marketed it too well. There was overcrowding issues during that night, which is not necessarily a slight on the business itself, but I had to tell friends that, hey, Cards HQ wasn't worth it for the trade night because there was a 30 to 40-minute line outside the door and there was overcrowding in the store. And again, great for the hobby in that the average age of attendance was probably about 10. Not great for the adults, but also that wasn't their objective that night. But overall, the shop looks great. It's clean. It's got snacks and food and whatever. It's got a lot of cards. And if you're in the area, I would have to recommend that you go there.
Do they have alcohol for sale?
I don't know, but that night
Mm,
they did have free drinks
interesting.
for
Well,
people of age.
I'm intrigued.
I think they
I
did.
do.
I'm
And
somebody who doesn't drink. I believe they had alcoholic beverages there.
do you think that they were advertising the trade night beyond like seems like if the average age was 10, that means that it was probably marketed to like the surrounding area. and
I mean,
less
I
about
think it's
like the
just that
show.
Jeff has a very large and successful brand, and that brand may have eclipsed the branding of the show, of the trade show.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense because the trade night at the first Culture Collision that I was at was just in, like, the lobby of the hotel that was
And that
attached.
was great. I love
It
that.
was it was popping, and those are always fun, but they always feel like I always feel like, personally, when I'm at those, that I feel like it's, like, a huge annoyance to people that are staying at the hotel that are not part of the card convention to have, like, a mob, and, like, obviously, the national, like, Card Collector 2 national trade night is, like, overwhelming as hell with how many people are there, and is it's bizarre with the first time you see people set up on the floor with their cards. It's a little weird. It's not super approachable for everybody. So I don't know. It makes sense. I mean, Cards HQ is not a trade night venue. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure they would like it to be, but like that's not the purpose of the shop. So it's impossible to judge the shop based on that, in my opinion.
yeah, that makes sense. And again, the shop itself looked great and way more profound than any usual LCS.
That's sick. Well, what else were you up to, Max? You went on another little journey,
I
and
went
I'm
to
I'm
another
inter- I'm
secret
I'm
I
like
went to a secret show location this past weekend, and I bought some cards. It was a show in a strip mob. No, not a strip mob, a strip mall. And I bought some cool cards from there that I have to show. The first is this. I rarely ever buy raw vintage, but I thought this was kind of cool. This is a really well centered, kind of minty or near minty looking 1958 All Star Mickey Mantle. And on the back, there it is. On the back, it's stamped, which is explains why it isn't slabbed. And this was owned by Ryan F. McKintree. I know that it's a practice that some people did on their pre-war cards that they put their stamp on it to show that it's theirs, so that there's no ambiguity. But seeing this on a 50s card is pretty fun, especially one that was raw. And
have you looked him up?
I have not looked up Mr. McKintree up.
Alright.
Have you?
No, but I'd be fascinated to hear his obituary.
Could still be alive. Sure. Cool or very interesting card I bought. I bought a pair of these. Is the Tops Now Erling Holland 2019 card number 11. Really fascinating story in that the person I bought this from. So this is, or first a preface, this is Holland's first card ever. He has stickers, but I'm pretty confident that this is his first card ever released. It was released from Tops Now, and there are 189 copies because it was print on demand, and Holland at the time was not a big player at all. The person who I bought it from was originally just scrolling on Tops Now and sees the card Wonder Kid hits hat trick, and he buys a 20 pack, which I think with coupons and bulk buying, he bought for $2 each. After
In
Holland,
wait, preface this. So 186 print run,
189.
189, he buys 20 of them. So
Yeah.
that's over 10% of the print run he buys on the spot. That's unreal.
Well, I mean, they're not expensive. I mean, it's like 40 bucks for a 20 pack or so. He said he bought it at like $2, $3 a card just because it's Wonder Kid scores hat trick. And Holland blows up, becomes one of the biggest young talents in the game of soccer, and he grades a ton of them. He got a few nines, he got a few tens, and at its peak, he sold one of these in a PSA 10 for $20,000, and several other PSA 10s in the 10,000 to $15,000 range.
Talk about a flip, man. That's unreal. Holy
So,
shit.
so from $2 to 20K.
Well, $2 plus grading fees.
Yeah. I mean, he was upcharged to like $1,000 per card, but a very fun talk with that dealer. Right now, I
That's
want to say this is like $4,000 in a 10. So maybe I'll try for a 10. I don't know. They're not doing 20K anymore. But Holland's first card ever, cool card. And I bought two of them.
well, that is not the Holland card you usually buy, and I'm shocked to hear that you now currently own 2 soccer cards, but, Tops Now is near and dear to young old heads' hearts as a, something that we love. we love in general as a print-on-demand product with generally low print runs on certain cards being the key thing there. Um, I love your Holland buys. I feel like your soccer buys are usually some of the ones that I'm most interested in because it's a world I'm not super involved in. What did the guy do you are you cool with shouting this guy out, or is this just
I don't
like
know
a
his handle.
mystery man?
He said he was a dealer that sets up well at the National, at Chantilly, and that's about it. And Philly. That's
You
about
did
all.
you did say that you thought that this is the most valuable Topps Now card. I did recently see somewhere that the Lionel Messi holding the World Cup trophy 101 auto went for like 40 or 50K. So
It
it is
was
not the most valuable, but it is probably
instant.
the most valuable non-auto, I would guess.
Mini instant, you fucking nerd.
I'm a nerd, bro. Get the fuck off my dick.
Yeah, the nerd who got the fact wrong. Um, what did it sell for? I don't think it was it 400? I thought it was like 200.
200K?
Yeah,
I was
200.
saying like 50 or 60K, not 200.
Oh, it just ended on PWCC Premiere.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the guy was stickered at like $1 million at card shows, and that price was never realistic. But this was the one of one Panini Instant tops, or it's not tops now. Panini Instant Lionel Messi card. It's an autograph. I believe it's a sticker autograph. Sticker
Yeah.
autograph, one of one, sold at auction for $126,000 on January 25th, 2024. And that's one of Messi's highest selling cards ever.
Shame on me for confusing Panini Instant with Topps Now. Shame on me.
Yeah. But I know CJ Stroud has a Topps Now card that supposedly did 9K. There's not many cards in this space that have sold for a ton. Now I'm looking just because it seems fun. Um, I'm seeing that a BGS 10 black label of Aaron Judge did $39,000, but that doesn't make sense. And that
I don't
there's
buy that. I don't buy it.
yeah, this does make sense. The in 2021 when Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton were essentially tied in points, and whoever won the Grand Prix in the last race would win everything. The Topps Now one of one commemorating that event, and I think the card is titled, yeah, 369. Yeah, they had the exact same amount of points, 369 and a half points each, one race to go. It has Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. It's the one of one from it. And that sold for $36,600 on February 6th. That's today, February 6th, 2022. So 2 years ago today, that card did 36K. And then for non-autographs, the card below that is this Erling Haaland in a PSA 10 for $19,680.
Was that Verstappen Hamilton card an auto? Dual auto?
No, neither autoed.
Interesting. Dude,
For the amount of Tops Now I talk on this show, you don't know Tops
dude,
Now ball.
the F1 pump and dump was unbelievable, is mainly what I'm getting out of it.
I mean, it's not a pump and up. It just doesn't have enough domestic collectors, and I think that's the issue. I think the uber high end is still extremely sought after, but because the floor isn't there to pump it up, there's not as much justification for the higher end. But the demand for the higher end is still there.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, what else did you buy in this mystery? Are you really not going to tell us where you went this weekend, Max? Is that a serious thing that I'm not allowed to talk about right now?
Dude, I don't even know where I went. I have this Tim Duncan IP autograph, which is really cool. I went to Wake Forest University. He's in a Wake Forest uniform in this. He doesn't have many autographs, but this is just graded authentic from 1997 Wheels. I don't know what that is, but cool card. PC card, because I PC and collect cards. That was another buy from the past 2 weeks.
That's cool. My favorite piece of card news in the last couple weeks since we recorded last is the fact that Leaf is going to revive the Press Pass brand, which was a brand of cards that put out mostly college uni cards and NASCAR, I believe, and some non-sport cards in the early 2000s. There's some Press Pass Tom Brady rookies. There's a bunch of they were the first ever to do game used College Uni relic cards. They did a lot of cool die cuts. If you collect a college or someone that was in college during the press pass era, I'd highly recommend checking them out. I know Tim Duncan mainly brought to my attention because Tim Duncan has a ton of press pass Wake Forest cards. So does Chris Paul. And those are sick. I'm hyped about press pass getting revived, Max. I'm sure you don't give a fuck though.
Fuck given.
Fuck given. Fuck given. I appreciate it. What else? What else? What other cool cards did you buy?
Those are probably the three coolest. I mean, without even getting into eBay buys. I don't have that many cool eBay buys, but I have some probably.
Well, wait, before we move into eBay buys, don't premature other term that I'm not gonna say right now. Can you, Max, tell us a little bit about what's going on with Stadium Club? Stadium Club 2023 released in 2024. Um, it brings upon the classic arguments around, oh, the photography is so sick. Shouldn't this be more valuable than flagship? Have you bought any Stadium Club 2023 or looked into the set at all, Max?
Not yet. I try to execute as much discipline as I can to wait for the hype for the product to go down to buy it, while also not missing the boat of it no longer being ripped. Really difficult to time. Like again, I said the story on the podcast before. I think there is some Michael Harris's gold autographs. I think we're doing like over 1,000 from the get go of release, and then I bought like two at like 900 and 800 in September, which is a month. I think it was 6 weeks after the product went out, and I sold them for $300 each.
That's that's
So
that's
yeah,
tough.
lesson in trying to time the market well is you have to exercise patience and wait most of the time. And in a product like Stadium Club, where it ultimately isn't the player's best cards ever, I'm still holding off for now. But in terms of the underrated discussion, I bit my tongue before this episode, so my enunciation is subpar. But Tommy was talking about it pre-show. Oh, this is so overrated. I think it's cyclic in that it's underrated for 9 to 10 months of the year, and then 2 months where there's Stadium Club and Stadium Club Chrome, it becomes properly rated, then quickly overrated, and then goes back to being underrated. Because personally, no one cares. It's just money. It's just cardboard. I hate to be the guy that does say that, but it's important to sober up in that if you are diving in, just make sure you dive in when it's in the underrated time so that you can actually enjoy it. Because if you are doing it for the money and you're buying it because it should be more valuable, you not only are playing the wrong game, but you're also probably going to lose. And I don't want everyone to lose. I want everyone to win.
I'm glad you turned it into a positive there because I think Stadium Club and we've talked about this. So I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but like it is more nostalgic for the dudes that were collecting the early 90s when it was like a cool new brand. And now, they do the throwback variations that are kind of rare that use those early 90s designs, but the people that really care about those are those dudes that were collecting then. We're not really the target audience for it, so I'm not gonna speak too much on it, but my only real thought is that Buster Posey is in all these 2024, 2023 top sets. Max sent me a Buster Posey card and he was like, "This one's sick." I The post playing career cards are just not doing it for me. I just don't care. Like, even though it's a sick image that maybe wasn't used in a card during his playing days, they're going to reuse those images a million times. There's going to be hundreds of cards of Buster Posey celebrating championships on cable cars and, hugging people. And, I
There
love
was
Buster Posey. I love those moments. I only give a fuck about cards that were released during his playing career. Is that irrational of me, Max?
a little bit. Like I generally don't care about post playing career cards, especially of like Hall of Famers, but um yeah, I think if the image is cool, you have to give it its just desserts.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Now,
But
Max, it's time. It's time though. It's time for the last ever Young Old Heads eBay buys of the week. Can I lean on you to start us off here, or do you want me to start us off?
I'm just gonna focus on one card because I do think it's hands down the coolest card that I bought this week. And that is this Stephen Curry gold prism sensational signatures autograph. True gold autograph. I'm looking at it now. The gold just pops so well, and this might be like my first real like superstar gold prism. I owned a collegiate draft picks gold of Steph Curry and a Davidson uni, and that was cool. But in terms of cool, like this isn't even the most expensive card, but it is a cool card, and I feel like I enjoy it. I'm gonna sell it still. I'm not gonna just put on a fake collector persona, but like I respect this card more than I do Stadium Club.
I love when you buy cards like that on eBay so that you don't have to pretend like no one can comp check you on it. How much did you pay for that?
Oh yeah, I don't need to worry about the contract. I bought it for like 1,300, I think.
What are you gonna ask for it?
We'll see what it grades.
Oh, you're gonna oh,
I don't know.
oh.
I don't know. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
A last card that I didn't buy off eBay, but like I think this is like a $1,200, $1,500 card.
Wait,
Top,
question from the
yeah.
peanut gallery. What was the auction? How did you buy that stuff? What was the eBay
Oh, this
circumstances?
the circumstances was I searched for like PSA graded cards and I found it. That's what I
Nice.
do like every night. I look at like every rookie card that exists above like a certain dollar amount. I find like every like graded card that exists above a certain dollar. Like literally every graded card that is at auction I've seen. I am the market. I
Max is
know. Yeah,
yeah. That's my
I am.
favorite thing about you.
Also, like, I want to buy more hockey just because it's cool. I bought this Jack Hughes, not from eBay, but from a show. Jack Hughes Future Watch SP Authentic Auto and Future Watch autos and the Cup and Young Guns are sick. And really, part of why hockey cards are alive is because they actually respect and make SP cards, but not the best player. Jack Hughes is so good and fun card.
Give me a basketball or baseball comp for Jack Hughes.
Oh, you're really testing my lack of
At least
hockey.
market. At least like
No, 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 no,
price.
no, no, no. I'm I'm trying to think. Like
Because if I'm being totally real with you, I have never heard of Jack Hughes before you just said his name.
like from a career standpoint, like Andrew Wiggins, except younger. And that
All right.
like
That's
like not a bad player. I think he's a one-time all-star. He's 24, former number one overall pick, was really hyped. Now he's just like average to above average league starter. Didn't
okay.
have the like the journeyman type, or not journeyman, but like really stunted lack of growth that Wiggins had in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But he's having a successful career, but one that's underwhelming for a number one overall pick.
All right. That's a good you did a good job. I appreciate the context, Max.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, I don't know. The hockey heads can tell me if I did a good job.
All right. Did you any fun sales or do you want to save those? I can do my buys and
Yeah,
you look at yours.
you look at the buys. I'll try to think of the sales.
Sick. Well, Max, I have good news for you. Um, After I did my top Buster Posey cards, and maybe this is a manifestation on my end, but last episode I did my top 5 Buster Posey cards in my collection. Max absolutely took a fat dump on one of the cards. That card is now sold. I sold the 2010 Bowman Orange Buster Posey rookie card for $80 on eBay. I used part of that funds to buy a card that I declared the top Buster Posey card that I could possibly own. I bought a 2011 Topps Black Parallel out of 60 Buster Posey Rookie Cup on eBay, Max, this last week. I don't think I've sent you this. I bought it for a heinous price. I overpaid like a fool that I am. I paid $200 plus shipping. I got the guy that sold me the card off eBay afterwards, and we were chatting. He has some other Buster cards. I'm not gonna buy any of them, but I secured the Grail. I said I would pay an absolute premium for this black cup. It is on its way. It has not made it to me. It's gonna go to whatever eBay authentication first, but I bought it, Max. I now am gonna get the card that I've been talking about for a long time. I'm gonna pair it up with the Hope Diamond. I'm gonna sell off some other busters to help offset the cost. What do you think, Max? I haven't talked to you about this.
I'm glad that you made this jump.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad
I
that
like
we're friends again.
my remarks. succinct and to the point so that the point isn't lost in the fluff.
Thank you. Another card. Well, first of all, I bought that card immediately. I was like, all right, I got to sell some shit to offset this cost. I can't just keep spending $200 on random cards on random occasions. But that was a card that I'd actually really been searching. Like, I check eBay every single night for that specific card in particular, above all other cards. So the fact that I was able to get that, I'm extremely hyped about. I'm going to be selling off at least like 20 different cards that I feel like are a little lower end. It's also like a good. I feel like whenever I buy a card like this, that I'm like been searching for a long time, it gives me a little bit of a reset on other cards that I'm not as hyped about. And I realize that I'm all right just selling off some. So I'm excited about that. I do enjoy the occasional selling spurt, and I will be doing that in the next couple weeks. So check out my eBay store at TV Sports Cards. Definitely DM me on other platforms if you see cards that I'm posting and want to buy them.
Tell
Max,
me
I
about
bought another card though that I know you're gonna appreciate. I bought a 2022 Prism Clay Thompson jersey number 11 out of 144 blue sparkle. It did say jersey number in the title, but I was able to buy this bin kind of like right as it was posted. But jersey number blue sparkle random, but team color match. Clay Thompson, who obviously is having a terrible year. Prism Max, how much do you think I paid for that jersey number? Prism color match parallel
of who.
of Clay.
Okay, that's what I figured. You said it at first, and then it slipped me. Knowing you, $30.
$8 plus $1 shipping. Less than $10 total.
The jersey number threw me off.
Yeah. It was an instant bin, and it was after I had spent $200 on a Buster Posey card in the same day. So it was like it was gonna
Numbered out
take
of
a
what?
lot. What?
Numbered out of what?
144 randomly
Okay.
for blue?
So this is my like not hot take, but should be in a more accepted take, is that the jersey number is more important as you get higher and higher. Like, if you have a Topps Gold jersey number, that means way more than having a Topps Gold refractor jersey number, which, of course, the Golds are numbered out of 2018 at a flagship, or for 2018, they're numbered out of 2018. They're numbered out of the current year. And for Gold, refractors are numbered consistently out of 50. So the fact that you're able to get that on a 144 is pretty big, I think. It's gravy on top.
That reminds me a lot of your printing plate theory, Max, where the amount of cards that printing plate was used to create impacts its value. So I totally tracks with me.
Yeah, and the significance of the base card.
Yeah, the significance of the base card. The last eBay buy that I'll talk about, Max, is a card that in 2021 must have been at least an $100 card. I would be interested to hear what 130 Point has to say, and probably was something that I should have looked at before the episode. But I bought this 2021 Joey Bart black out of 70 flagship.
I
So
like that.
Joey Bart's black flagship parallel of his rookie card. I bought this on eBay. You know, this is something where I've shat on Joey Bart a lot in these episodes, and I bought it for $7.88, less than $10 shipped. Even though he's going to be probably gone from the Giants before the season starts, this is a card that is kind of fun to have as a hey, remember when everyone was hyped about Joey Bart? Black flagship. This will go in the binder. I do enjoy Joey Bart's rookie card image a lot on the Topps flagship design. Happy to own it. Happy I didn't pay like 60 to $100 for it 2 years ago. And yeah, Max, that's one of the more fun eBay buys I had.
That's insane that you got that for that cheap. I remember when well, that's 2021 Tops, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just crazy because I remember like I kind of targeted Bart as like cards to buy, and that was when PSA was closed and like stuff that like could be graded. That was see April 3rd, 2022. That card was $175.
Damn.
February 15th, so product release, that
Yeah.
was $211.
$211 at product release for a card I got for under $10 today.
Yeah,
That's pretty
and a
sick.
fun Giants card.
Yeah, great Giants card. I mean, that's like a most people post like bench player Giants black flagships for like $10 minimum
And that's
on
a rookie
eBay.
too. I know he doesn't have that many cards. It's still a rookie.
Yeah, like I'm hyped about it honestly. So Very rare. I was not expecting to say I was hyped about a Joey Bart card today on this episode, but that is the case.
I approve.
You got any fun buys you want to mention before we sign off on the last Young Old Heads of all time?
I think we're just gonna leave it at this. I'll say that.
Well put, Max. And it's been a pleasure. I can't wait till we are back doing our shit soon. Sooner than soon.
It's good to be here with my good friend and co-host Tommy.